Welcome to fall. Today is the fall equinox. It's been a while since I've done a tarot reading video, so we're gonna do that today. We're gonna bring in some of this fall energy. It is a chilly, rainy day today where I live in Kansas. It's been like super hot this last week, but today the temperature dropped. It's been rainy and stormy and cloudy outside all day. So it's kind of a perfect time to be leaning into the energy of fall. I'm gonna use two decks that I haven't used in a while. Neo Tarot, which what I like about it is it's very focused on self-care. It's very focused on how do we take care of ourselves, how do we connect with our body. And then I'm also going to use Next World Tarot, which is a favorite of mine because it's radical and revolutionary. I mean, just look at like the image here. Yeah, if you're watching this channel, you're probably on that same vibe. So that's what we're going to do. And sip some tea. So I feel like I want to do... The spread that I like doing the most is just a simple past, present, future, 3-card draw. I feel it's helpful for tuning into different seasonal aspects of life because we get a feel for where have we been, where are we now, and where are we going. So I'm going to pull a past, present, and future card from each of these decks and see where we are at and where we are headed into as we move forward into this new season, as we close out the summer, bring in this energy of fall. It is an interesting time in the life of being a human. And see what some messages from Spirit, the universe, God, source, creator, whatever word you might like to use, nature. Let's get a future. Okay. All right. Interesting. So I had felt like it's a good time in life to do a reading like this because we are moving into a fall season that is not going to be easy. We're moving into a presidential election, a really tough presidential election. Things are not easy right now out in the world, especially for those of us who are social minded, who are community minded, who are justice minded. So let's talk through what we've got here. All right, here's what we've got for past cards. We've got the 6 of Pentacles in like the self-care deck. What's this called? Neo Tarot. And then we've got the 2 of Wands in Next World Tarot. It's interesting that this card is Wands, which is speaking to like creative energy, sort of like you might imagine a wand would do, sending out like energy and vibration and creating something from it. So like manifestation, bringing what we have in our hearts, what is in our passion into reality. Whereas this one is a Pentacles card, so it's speaking more to the earthly realm, speaking more, well, sort of similar to like the physical realm. What's in the world around us, what's in our tangible environment. But this one, like this thing that she's got right here is giving me pentacle vibes. And so there's a message here about how far we've come and the things that we've been able to create thus far in our experiences. This one in particular, there's, you know, like a lot of community emphasis in this. This person has 6 pentacles. This person has a lot of abundance. This person is sharing with their whatever community. There's an element here of having seen and done and experienced and learned from it. There's a lot of abundance. There's a lot of sharing. There's a lot of like resource generation between these two cards. So if you've been in a place where you've really been like building your community, building your resources, building your networks, building your capacity to manifest, building your own realms, you are like right in tune for the season. It feels to me like this reading is saying that there's a foundation upon which we can fall back and like lean upon a bit as we're moving into what might be a more stressful fall time period. So the work we've done over the summer of connecting, of sharing, of harnessing abundance, that work is going to serve us well. And why? Because there's wisdom gained. Like, look at how wise this person looks. She's standing in the midst of these like broken fruit looking things. She's kind of got this like Saturnian vibe to her going on, a little bit of a galactic vibe. And she is like strong and empowered. You know, she's created these sort of Aquarian type decoration things. She's got her little, I don't know what you call that, like magic wand pendant situation going on. Like she is ready. She has been building her resources, and that can look like tangible physical community resources, abundance, material stuff, but it can also be the inner resources. It can also be the strength to be able to show up and be this kind of like badass energy, the strength to be able to show up and like stand with those who are in need without being sort of like sucked down into the suffering that can exist. So there's like wisdom that we're pulling in that we are going to want to fall back on, that we're going to want to lean on during the time that's coming ahead, because the present cards that we got aren't quite so bright and happy. We've got an 8 of Swords. You can get a little feel of the energy from just looking at this card image. And we've got the 4 of Swords, and same for this one. So my interpretation is this coming fall time period is not going to be easy, especially because we are, you know, the time of this reading is set from today, the equinox, up until the winter solstice, which is like December 22nd, something like that, I think. So we are really looking at like the coming few months, and a huge part of the coming few months is the election cycle that we are in here in the United States. So the message I'm seeing from this is that it's going to be a time period where we're not able to fully see the possibilities, the options we have, the resources we have at our disposal. This person is like bound up. What's interesting is that she's bound up, or they're bound up by their hair. So, oh, this is a point here. This person is not bound up by something that's coming from outside of themselves. This person is bound up by their own influence. Their hair is covering their eyes. Their hair is binding their body. There's nothing from the outside that is trapping this person, and yet this person feels trapped. This person feels blind. This person feels constricted. This person feels stuck in this like pawn situation here. Unable to see all of these resources, all of these swords. Swords are a mental card, so the Suit of Swords is speaking to mental activity. So my feeling is that these represent like different ideas, different ways of seeing reality, different options, different alternatives. You know, she's got 8 of them that are surrounding her, but she doesn't see any of them at all because she's bound herself. Because Swords is mental, to me this feels like a caution card and a prediction card of a lot of us feeling trapped and a lot of us falling into mental traps that keep us stuck in this kind of a way of seeing the reality of the world over these coming few months. Okay, let's talk about this one before we go a little deeper into that, because I feel like they tie into each other. All right. This one, 4 of Swords. And look at this little fella here. He is like busy typing. Can you see the expression on his face? Sort of. He's got this like stressed out. He's like, you know, he's really focused on what he's doing, but it's coming at a cost. It's coming at a cost to his physical environment. It's coming at a cost to his body. It's coming at a cost to his life. The balance of his life has been taken over by his fixation and his focus on like the doing, I've got to type this thing and I've got my message and I'm like trying to get it out there. Meanwhile, he's got this box over here says, this box says 2013, this box says 2014 regrets. Like he's got these regrets that are piled up in his living environment. He's got all this stuff. He's got this like litter. He's got this trash. He's got this food. You know, he is not living a holistic life. He is single-mindedly focused on one thing to the point where he's missing the other ways of seeing the reality he's in, to the point where he is out of balance and he only sees one option. You know, he might as well be bound by his hair as well and unable to see anything except for whatever he's doing, whatever he's typing on this specific typewriter. It's the same, like I'm getting the same energy from both of these cards, that it's about when we fixate so heavily on one thing. Okay, this is, you know, something that I talk about all the time in my videos before. Maybe you've heard me talk about this. We can't lose sight of the forest for the trees. We can't lose sight of the forest for the trees. Both of these people are so fixated on one tree in front of them that they have lost sight of the bigger forest. This is a huge way that in this society, in this culture, we end up staying trapped and we end up being held back from our full potential. We end up being held back from our own capacity to be in joy, to live a holistic, fulfilling life. So this is a tough message, but the insight I feel coming through is to not let yourself get single-mindedly focused during these coming months. Whatever happens with the election, it is probably going to be traumatic. There is a lot of polarization I see happening, not just between groups, but within groups. So regardless of which candidate wins, many of us are going to feel as though we're losing either way. Regardless of which candidate wins, many people in this country and internationally are going to feel and believe as though it's the wrong choice. And the issue with politics in this country is that it can so easily become the single issue we focus on. When we think about creating a world that we desire to see, what I have noticed in my professional career path as a social worker, even somebody who worked in politics for a long time, is that we can see politics as the only answer. And so when something doesn't go our way, when a candidate is elected that we have concerns about, when a policy that we don't agree with is passed, when a policy that we are advocating for is not passed, when something like that happens, it can be really easy to fall into these mindsets of believing like, that's it, like I'm bound, I don't have a choice, I can't see anything else, like that's the end. Or this is the only way out. I have to force and push and like really focus even more because this is the only possible way that my life can be okay is if this specific political issue gets resolved. And I have seen that keep people trapped in situations that aren't helpful, in situations that aren't healthy for them. You know, there's a saying that I think of a lot when we are talking about the role that politics can have in creating the world we want to see, which is an Audre Lorde quote, "The master's tools can never dismantle the master's house." Politics, political systems, presidential elections, they're tools of the master. Like, that's just how this country was structured. That's just how democracy in this country was birthed. If we unpack the origins of this country, our political system has never really worked for the people. You know, it's worked for a minority of the population. It's worked for people who held privileged identities in positions of power. It has not ever worked for everyone in this country. Politics has never been the answer for everyone in this country. It has never been the answer for BIPOC groups. It has never been the answer for queer people. It has never been the answer for immigrants. It has never been the answer for healing trauma. It has never been the answer for creating more cohesion. It has never been the answer to creating a community that can actually find common ground and heal together, which is ultimately what we need as a human species. So the advice here, the guidance here is that this fall is going to be a tense time and we're going to see a lot of people who are falling into these situations. But what we need to remember for ourselves as people who are watching this video, who are receiving this message, is that we can choose. We can choose to unwind our hair from our body. We can choose to open our eyes. We can choose to look around our physical environment and be like, hey, my shit is not in order. Let me focus on something else for a while. Let me stop staring at this tree that's like right here in front of my face and let me look around and like, what are some of the trees over there? And what are some of the trees over there? And like, if I step back a few feet, if I climb up on that hill, how do I see the situation differently? What kinds of solutions can I come up with in that situation? We cannot be single-minded. We cannot believe that there is only one route out of the injustice that we're facing. We cannot believe that there is a single solution. I'm not saying any of this to diminish politics or to say that it's not important who gets elected to represent a country, because it is, and it's not the only way. And when it doesn't go our way, it doesn't mean there is no hope. It doesn't mean there are no options. It doesn't mean that in the long run, we're going to be worse off. In the short run, people might suffer more, yes. In the long run, we have some broader reckoning to do. We have some reckoning to do with the forest of politics and not just the tree of who happens to get elected. We have got a lot of swords in this reading, which is interesting. We've got 2 more swords cards for our future pathway, but fear not, they're a little bit more hopeful. This one doesn't look hopeful, but we're going to talk about what it means. So we've got the 5 of Swords, and we've got the 7 of Swords. Now, you might be more familiar with some of the aspects of tarot than I am, so if you're interpreting based on what you know of these cards, great, that's fantastic. I'm using the imagery specifically represented in the 2 decks that I'm using and some of the interpretations that come with these cards. So I want to talk about this one first. In this one, our attention immediately goes to this person who's got all of the swords. We might call this person the victor. We might call this person the loser who's walking away. This person doesn't have any of the swords. But if we take a closer look, look at this person's face. They don't really look happy. They don't really look satisfied. They don't really look as though, they are actually the victor. And I want to read you the description for this one because I feel like it's really fitting. Would you rather be bested by a shady person or come out victorious against someone else through shady tactics of your own? It's better to know when a dispute isn't worth it and walk away than to end up with more power but less nobility. If you're tempted to get opportunistic, take someone else for granted, or harbor resentment over those you feel have an unfair advantage, know that you might come out on top, but ask yourself at what cost. So surface level appearance can be deceiving is the message with this card. And it looks at a surface level like this is the person who won, but actually the impression, the interpretation that I'm getting is this is the person who won. They're sad right now. They're walking away from this battle that they've lost. It's a mental battle because we're talking about swords. So, maybe this feels fitting for politics to me right now too, because it can be really easy to engage in a verbal argument or discussion with somebody. And when we're in the mental realms, there's so much we can use to prove or misprove anything. The problem with research, the problem with evidence, the problem with statistics is they can be used on both sides of any argument, and they can really be spun. As somebody who studied statistics really in depth for several years, who taught statistics, statistics can be spun to support our own mental belief. So even when we win in mental debates with people, we're not actually winning. We're not actually winning. What does winning look like when there's 2 people on different sides of an issue? What does winning look like? To me, winning looks like, how do we find common ground? How do we both win? How do we find, within humanity, there's a common thread, there's a cord, there's a shared collection of needs and values that we all carry. And we have different mental ideas about how to get there, but we all carry those fundamental, it's a species thing, it's a species survival thing. We all want belonging. We all want connection. We all want to be understood. We all want to have safety. When we can come into a disagreement with that mentality of how do we find that common thread, that commonality, that common connection, we don't have to engage like this. There don't have to be winners and losers. So there's a message here about reframing the way that we fight. So this is a future card, meaning this is an experience that we are learning over the coming months through the fall equinox, and it's a blessing, it's a piece of wisdom, it's a strength, it's a resource that we'll have to carry with us following this equinox period, following this fall period. So moving into winter, there are some opportunities to really be actively applying a lesson of what does it mean if we don't have a winner and a loser in the way that we fight. And to me, that pulls back this present card, because to me, this present card is about getting out of the mentally stuck patterns of believing that it has to be a particular way. That I win if my candidate wins, and I lose if the other candidate loses, or if the other candidate wins. This is asking for more exploration. This is asking for us to move beyond polarization, to find the common thread that exists underneath, to pursue harmony instead of victory. All right, let's talk about this one. I see a similar thread. So in this image, let's just look at what this human is doing. This beautiful, genderqueer, radically expressive human is walking out of what's normal. Like if you can see in the background, this like city situation, there's, let's see, some of these labels say like buy, shop, $. It's consumerism, it's capitalism, it's the prescribed way of existing. This person is walking out of the prescribed routes, the set of options that we are given in this society. This person is walking out of what has been prescribed to them to find their own path. They're blazing their own path. The Seven of Swords has an individual experience and individual journey. No one knows her struggle. No one knows the best solution to an obstacle that burns her and begs for immediate resolution. The Seven learned how to evade disaster. She questioned her actions and multiple times came to the conclusion to do it her own way. The Seven of Swords asks you to do the same, but be mindful. So there's an energy here of paving a different path forward. There's an energy here of new possibility, new exploration. And because of some of the cards that we've gotten to describe this like present time period between the fall equinox now and the winter solstice, to me, this is signifying that during this time period, we're going to learn a lot about what doesn't work. We're going to learn a lot about what's not working for us. Where are we binding ourselves? Where are we trapping ourselves? Where are we keeping ourselves small because we don't believe we have a choice? Where are we getting distracted from taking care of our own basic friggin' needs and self-sacrificing to the point of immobilization, to the point that all we see is a tree straight in front of us? This is a new pathway. This is new experience. This is new exploration. This is like really deeply, and it's not just, it doesn't feel as external to me. It feels really internal. You know, these cards are representing swords. So it's a lot about the way that we think. It's a lot about the way that we see the world. So to me, there's this process, there's this cycle that we're going through over the coming months that is going to help open us up to new possibilities of how do we see reality? How can we get past the win-lose dichotomy, the black and white version of what it means to fight? How can we come up with our own set of solutions? How can we begin to experiment? You know, the description here doesn't talk about this person as she knows the way for sure. She's paving this better pathway. The description is like, we don't know what happens. We don't know what happens when we walk out of the way that something has been done, the way that we've believed about something for so long, the consumerist capitalistic culture that tells us that voting is the only option we have for social change. We don't know what it's like to walk out of that because we haven't done that collectively yet. So there's an exploration period. It's not perfect. It's not easy. It's not paved. We're going to walk it as we go. We're going to create it as we move. Okay, I feel inclined to focus a little bit more on this one. I want to read you some of the description of the meaning and some suggestions for self-care because I think that's really going to help us over the coming months. So the description here is, feeling unjustly stuck in a bad situation can itself be a binding, oppressive force. Fear and negative self-belief can feel like a prison when unchecked. Feel being the key word, because you are not actually trapped. It's a state of mind. Lovingly shift your perspective and you'll see that you're not limited by anything but yourself. The path from here is in front of you. You only need to step forward. Self-care recommendations during this time period. Go for a run or a fast walk or get on your wheels. Just something that gets your body to speed up in a way that can feel freeing. Go as hard as you can safely go, letting out any tension or negative emotions that come up. This sounds easy, but if you're not very physical, you'll know that the mind can get in the way of even the most basic shows of physical strength. Notice that and try using your affirmation. The affirmation is, I am not my thoughts, and my thoughts are not me. So this is really interesting. We're moving through a time period where we are asked to remember and rely on the foundations that we've built, the physical community that we have in our presence, the wisdom and the strength that we've gained from lessons we've learned to build ourselves up and get to this point. There's some preparation for going through a little bit more of a tense time period collectively. This doesn't have to be our individual experience. We might see a lot of people stuck in these situations. We don't have to be. It's a mental choice. how we focus our brain, how we focus our energy, what we allow ourselves to believe. I am not my thoughts, and my thoughts are not me. And with all of this, know that we are paving a different way forward. We are exploring new ways of seeing conflict, new ways of seeing politics, new ways of seeing what does it mean to create a more socially just world. We are leaving behind some things that are not working for us. We are leaving, well, this isn't working for us either, this like win versus lose thing. We're leaving behind this like polarized way of dealing with human relationships. Like at the end of the day, that's really what politics is supposed to be about, right? Politics is supposed to be about creating a culture, creating a society that allows and supports human relationships so that we can coexist, so that we can work together for our survival, for the survival of Earth. That is not at all what politics has evolved to be in this country. In this country, politics has evolved to be exactly this. Some of us win and some of us lose, and then the person who lost this time has to come back and like take all the swords the next time, and that person's going to come back and take all the swords the time after that. It becomes this like tug of war, this like self-righteous, politically polarized tug of war where there's always a winner and a loser. And as long as there's always a winner and a loser, we will all lose. We all lose. We all lose in a game that's set up this way. This is not how humanity is designed to operate. So can we get out of the mental constructs that tell us that the sky is falling when this is the political reality we watch play out, when the person that we wanted to win doesn't win or does win, and we see other people play this out? Can we get out of mentally constricting ourselves and recognize that either way, it's a zero-win game? We've got to explore other avenues. Either way, we have to pave new pathways forward because what has been paved for us is not going to work. It's not the answer. It's not the answer. The master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. Politics can play a role in creating a better society, but it is not the savior. It is not the only role. And I don't even think it's the most important. So watch out for mental traps. Keep yourself agile. Look for those pathways of new discovery. Look for those pathways of new connection, new ways of relating, new ways of evolving conflict. What does it mean to evolve conflict? What does it mean to truly create a reality in which all of us can be fed? Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. That's not easy. That's not quick. That's not something we're going to see in our lifetimes, but it is a seed that we can plant now. It is a seed that needs to be planted now in order to walk on to whatever comes next for us. All right, that's all from me and Twiggy on this rainy, cloudy day. So I encourage you to buckle up for some turbulence, but also be really mindful that you're not putting all of your mental eggs in the basket of politics, that you're not putting all your mental eggs in the basket of somebody else, some expert, some politician, some person is going to come save us, because we are the ones who have to do that for ourselves. You want to come on my lap, honey? Oh, come here. We're sending you equinox blessings and a lot of mental freedom. Wishing you mental freedom and more exploration within all of the options that are truly at our disposal over these coming months.